So I'm here with my friend Zwai Zulu,
Yes, sir.
and we're here in Pretoria, South Africa, and wanted to just chat for a few minutes about your life and what God's doing in you and in your ministry. And so thanks for doing this.
Yeah, sure.
So let's jump in, and I think it'd be great for people to hear kind of biographically where you're from, where did you grow up, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so my name is Zwai. I grew up in Swaziland. It's 4 hours away from Joburg. But yeah, I grew up in a family that went to the Catholic Church. Went to a Catholic school. So my parents, they not all from the same sort of ethnic group. Mm-hmm. My dad is a Zulu man. My mother is Swati, but I grew up in this best of both worlds, I guess. And my whole life I was between Swaziland and Johannesburg because my dad worked here.
Okay.
And my mom was in Swaziland, and so just every year, for the last 31 years, I've gone between Swaziland and Johannesburg my whole life. So I think these two places hold some sort of, they've shaped me in many ways.
Yeah.
But schooling wise, I was in Swaziland for about 15 years, 16 years, and then I moved back to South Africa, and I stayed in Mpumalanga for a few years, and then came up to Joburg. Yeah,
okay.
So that's...
Yeah, and maybe explain, I think it'd be helpful for people to hear. So you went to a Catholic church growing up, in Catholic school.
Yeah.
But then what actually what did you think about religion, Catholicism?
Sure.
I'm kind of leading you with the question because I know a little bit of the answer.
Yeah.
How did that even play into some of the African ancestral things that tend to happen?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
I think for me growing up, I saw a mix of both. So there was the sort of like the religious side of things we do. I was an altar boy in the Catholic Church, enjoyed that. But also then in family gatherings, there was a form of ancestral worship. I think there was slaughtering, so I grew up around...
Wait, slaughtering what?
Slaughtering goats,
okay.
sheep, and
but
all that.
But as a sacrifice of sorts.
Yes,
okay.
It was a sacrifice, and a lot of the times it was to appease the ancestors.
Okay.
It's either if things are going very bad for you, you have to do that, or if things are going well, so you have to appease your ancestors. I think the issue there was a mediation issue.
Yeah.
Growing up in the Catholic environment, school and family, it became more like it was just a cultural thing that we had to do. I went through all the baptism classes. It was also a great, place for me to meet girls. I was in a boys' school, so
okay.
That environment provided, just time to get to know girls. Enjoyed that, and I think also the main thing that was driving it, what was motivating me was, I want to check this list of, I've been baptized. I've gone through sort of like in my family, that was the main thing that you had to focus on.
Yeah.
All the way up to confirmation. So I was going through the motions basically, and I think what became very clear for me was I got to understand that mankind are sinful. I think that was very clear. It came out, and I could understand that I mess up. I do things that are wrong. But I think for me the misconception was, how do you get it right? How do you get back on the right path? And so when I got baptized, I sincerely thought, when the waters of baptism are sprinkled on me, my sins are washed, completely. And I think it didn't take a lot of hours for me to sin again. And I think I was left with now a question, do I need to get back?
Yeah, now what?
Yeah, do I need to get baptized?
Yes.
And so I think that played at the back of my mind. And until I came to university, really, there was that thing that was lingering in my mind. How do I deal with my sinfulness? And I came to university. Really, the last thing I thought I'd ever become was a Christian. I'd come to university, and then by that time, my life was my life was around partying. So my friends thought, man, this guy parties, he goes to clubs, he hangs out with drinks. So in that regard, I was accepted with my friends. And then also at home, I was a goody two shoes, with my parents. I'm a golden boy, so to speak. And I did well at school, so
Best of both worlds.
yeah. So my parents were very pleased with me.
Yeah.
My teachers were pleased with my marks. My friends were pleased with me. But I think I remember sometime in high school, there was a party I'd gone to, and I remember this because I had stepped back from the whole party, and I just remember just asking a question: Is this really what life is all about?
Yeah.
Is there more to it? And I didn't know why I'd asked that question, but I think then coming back to university,
Yeah.
I think that question was answered.
Mm.
What's our purpose? And I got to meet campus outreach staff at our UJ Bunting campus, and I was invited to a braai. I was like, I'm staying in a self-catering residence. I'm not gonna miss a free meal, so I'm gonna go. And I love meat, so I went there. And
let me just clarify, because some Americans will hear this. A braai it's a cookout.
Yeah, it's a barbecue.
Yeah, barbecue.
Sure. So yeah, I enjoyed that time, that braai or that party. It was just really nice. People were relating to girls. I mean, guys were relating to girls, and the girls were relating to guys. There were games, and my thought that was going on there was, where is the alcohol hidden? Because the amount of fun that everybody's having, there've got to be some stuff somewhere.
There's some beer or some gins hidden.
Yeah.
Can I get some?
Can I get some? But I'm enjoying this, and I think for
Yeah.
me, that was a very defining moment, because I remember that night I asked one of the leaders there. I asked, "What is this? What is this all about? Like, it seems so genuine. People are having fun. Really, what are you guys? It was just a rare thing that I was experiencing." And so they told me, "No, look, we're a Christian organization focusing on campus students." I was like, wow, we run Bible studies, and I thought, oh, here's another great thing I could tell my parents I'm attending.
Okay.
So yeah, to check off that thing, I'm still the golden boy. So I went to the Bible studies, and I think the Bible study leader really led it well and asked really good questions.
Yeah.
And we went through a passage in John 15, really understanding who Christ is and who we are. And I remember asking a question that I was like, okay, I'm hearing all about this Jesus guy. It's great. He seems like a great guy. What does he want from me?
Yeah.
What does it, and it's like, no, you can come. He wants a relationship with you. So come as you are. You don't need to clean yourself. And that was mind blowing for me, because I think the question I had growing up with the baptism, understanding the aspect of saved by grace, not by our works, so I didn't need to do the baptism again.
Yeah.
I didn't need for my sins to be clean, or for cleansing, I didn't need to be baptized. I needed to accept Christ because He's done it. And so that was just, it really blew my mind. And for the next couple of months of that year, I investigated a bit more of who Christ is. And actually, on the 28th of May, it was exactly 11 years ago since I'd accepted to follow Jesus as my Lord and Savior. And I think, man, that's...
How long you been married?
I've been married 7 years on the 18th of June with
And
one wife, Z. And we have 2 kids. Our eldest is 5, turning 6 later this year. And the second born is 3, turning 4 in October. And we have 1 on the way.
Okay.
So, the Lord is
And we don't
blessing
know
us.
if it's a boy or girl yet. So
We're not sure. We're just praying for a healthy baby.
Yeah, we're going to see.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And where did you meet your wife?
I met her at one of the campus outreach events in our first year.
Yep.
In our freshman year. So we became very good friends. We became Christians around the same time. And there was just this beautiful community of believers that was, emerging in our campus. And so we became very good friends.
Good.
And we went through, summer training projects, went through discipleship, sort of like together. And so I got to know her very well.
Good.
Through the ministry of campus outreach.
Okay. How long have you been on staff at Campus Outreach?
This is my 7th year on staff.
Okay.
I came on staff towards the end of 2011 and started raising support then. And but before then, I'd been working in the IT field with a few companies. So I started working just before I finished my studies at UJ. And so for about 3 years, I was in the workforce. And since the call to ministry, I think through the church I was involved in at the time, and started leading a community group.
Yeah.
And just preparing for those community groups meetings, God was growing a desire in me to look at His scripture and share it with people.
Yeah.
And I think I had experienced campus ministry, the impact of it. I had first-hand experience of that, and I really wanted to come back to the campus, and do what was done to me, to many other people.
That's good. What's a particular vision that you would have for campus outreach Gauteng? Or side note to anyone who might be watching this from the U.S., we're in the province of Gauteng. But we just say campus outreach Johannesburg if we're in the U.S. So if you had a vision for campus outreach Gauteng, of what God might do, what would be, what would you love to see happen?
Man, I just think I'd love to see a lot more disciples come from the campus. People will not only just be walking with the Lord at university, but walk with the Lord for a lifetime.
Yeah,
I think I want to see that. I want to see missionaries launched. I want to see business people launched from the campus. I want to see godly politicians, stepping into politics, but with a biblical framework.
Yeah.
I want to see a different Africa. I want to see people having a right understanding of who God is.
Yes.
And not this mixing of African traditional religions and Christianity. Basically, I want to see, Christian men and women that will come and change that and educate and help, and I want to see, and I think one of the reasons why I want to see politicians come, I just think as an African continent, we're struggling from people that cannot govern very well, and I think I'd love to see, university students that will go and govern well, men of integrity, women of integrity, just changing the narrative. I want to see, I pray that God really uses our efforts on the campus to raise up those people, because I believe through discipleship, those people could be unearthed.
Yes. To put it in kind of a pop culture term, the way I think about the dream is Wakanda exists. Like the potential for God to do a unique kingdom building thing here exists. But we know, because of the narrative of the scripture, we won't see that until heaven.
Yes.
But we'll get touches and taste of it. And there's just so many resources. So maybe also to throw out a few statistics to validate what you're saying. Read an article recently when I went to Zambia. Only 42% of sub-Saharan Africa has access to electricity. So when you think about new economies, new emerging markets, all of those people are left out. We were talking about last night, the legacy of colonization has left leaders who don't know how to govern or rule and really are out for themselves. And with few exceptions, they lead their countries for their own gain and own wealth. We could see that change through discipleship and through evangelism, godly leaders coming about. And I think we had one of our former staff guys, Brandon McCord. Just to give a shout out to him, he's in an urban design school now in DC, and he is still staying connected to what's happening here on the continent of Africa. We're at a bike park. That's why a guy rode by on a bicycle. It's just he's staying connected to what's happening here in Africa, and he referenced a Rwandan architect that said for Africa to meet its infrastructure needs by the year 2050, we would need, on the continent, 700 million more houses. Okay, so think about that. If you're in the United States and you're hearing this, you think there's 350 million people in the United States, and 4 or 6 or 8 people can live in a house. A lot of places in Africa, a lot more than 4 or 6 or 8 people live in a house. And he's saying we need 700 million houses based on the projected growth of the continent by 2050. And I think the number was 51,000 more medical centers.
Yes.
So when you think about the potential of Africa, it's immense. And then I think the thing that we're uniquely positioned in, and then particularly African leaders like yourself, we know based on, as far as we can see right now, based on population growth and the spread of Christianity, that there will be more Christians living on the continent of Africa by 2050 than any other place in the world. Now, but it's probably fair to say a fair number of those would be Christians in name, kind of like you would say as a child.
Yeah, sure.
So I think that just builds a very compelling case for what you're doing and you're giving your life to, that there's a tremendous leadership need on the continent in every area of life.
Amen.
And if you were still on staff 10 years from now with COJ, what would you see yourself doing? If you were still on staff, you don't have to be on staff, but if you were still on staff 10 years from now,
I'm praying that the Lord will expand the work that we're doing as COJ to another province, and particularly is a province called KwaZulu Natal. I'd love to see CO, planted in Durban and reaching the campuses there. And so I do see myself staying on staff, God willing, and I would love to be part of an expansion like that. Again, because the perception is thinking that South Africa is rich, but really South Africa is, it's not really reached. So I think there's still a lot of work to be done. The harvest is plentiful, and so I'd love to see the Lord really raise up people that we could go with, and that doesn't end with Durban. It carries on. It goes to many cities, to the entire world, and would love, just for God to use, our efforts, as simple men, sinful men, and women, reaching ordinary people who could do extraordinary things in His world. So
it's great. Just one last question. I think since we're on video, we can maybe we can pull this out years from now. If you were to have a hope or dream for your kids, what is the South Africa that you want them to live in and that you're fighting for?
I am fighting for a united, racially united South Africa. We are so divided right now, and historically there have been so many things that have happened. I'd love my children to not be battling with the things that we're battling with today. I'd love for them to look at a person who's different from them according to race and say that person is made in the image of God, and for them to understand that they are made in God's image and not feel less of who they are. So I dream of a South Africa like that. I dream of a world like that. We bleed red, we're the same in many ways. And just, I think the pigmentation of our skin has separated us for many, many centuries. And I'd love, man, for our kids to have a different reality. And I think the things that we do now will shape that. And there are brothers and sisters around the world who are passionate about the same things. And I think we want to, and I think it's possible because of the gospel, in the gospel we see how Christ breaks down that wall of hostility, how He takes down all these man-made barriers. He created us in His image. He didn't create a particular race in His image. He created all mankind in His image. So I'd love to see that reality that is explained in Genesis 1 come to life, for my kids, for your kids. Man, that's what I pray for and I dream for.
That's awesome. Before we moved to South Africa, I had there was a gentleman I met who at one point worked for a U.S. presidential administration and had spent time in what is now Namibia, but like in the 60s, 70s, somewhere in there. And he said he was really excited about us moving to South Africa, and he said, South Africa is the hope of the world. And I was like, what? And he said, look, because he's pretty in tune with what's happening in Southern Africa, with colonization, racial tension, and apartheid, and those kind of things. And he said, look, he's like, if South Africans can get the gospel right, if they get the gospel and they can live the implications of the gospel,
Sure.
They will display to the world what the church can do.
Amen.
And I was like, wow, that's good stuff.
Sure.
So, well, man, thanks for chatting today.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thanks
Appreciate you
for
as a friend.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you, man.
Yeah.
And I appreciate just your heart for Africa. We do need more partners, who would partner with us in this way. So really thankful for who you represent and what you represent. Not only just you, but Kelly and your kids. Yeah, man, just really thankful that, and again, the solutions is not only just going to come from Africans. It's going to come from everybody taking part. So really I'm thankful for supporters and our supporters that are making that possible. And I think, so really thankful for that, man.
Cool, man. Thanks, man.
Cool, bro.